Hi, good evening, Lourdes. Thanks for being in class. We're going to start the class now with you, all right? We're going to still work with, punctuation rules because that's very important. You know that that's going to be the criteria that is going to be evaluated. Well, part of the criteria, right, that is going to be evaluated on Monday. First, it's going to be spelling, then it's going to be, of course, punctuation, and we have a number of words. And punctuation is going to be a very important criterion that we're going to take into account. So it's important that it's clear. We still have a couple more. We're not going to learn about period because actually period is clear, but I'm going to show you examples in which you can use period. But I wrote some examples, all right, on which I'm using, and I'm going to use commas to show you what and how different it could be and to understand that difference. So first, as a review, let's remember that we have 4 important cases in which we use comma, right? To list items or short phrases, to separate long independent clauses, right? It means to complete ideas with conjunctions. If you don't have complete ideas, perhaps the sentence is going to be okay, but remember the comma is not going to be necessary. And I'm going to show you, right, with some examples. I already showed you, and you already wrote some examples, but I'm going to show you again. After an introductory phrase, right, in preparation for the next convention, right, before going to the party, after finishing the test, right, those are introductory phrases. I'm going to write some as well. And to separate, right, like extra information, let's say a parenthetical phrase or interrupter. It's better if you call them interrupters. Doctors, right, all doctors, comma, if they care about their patients, comma, that was an interruption, right, are concerned with good office hygiene. Now, you learned that. Just as a reminder, you're going to help me reading this part, please. And I'm going to start this with, give me a second, I'm going to try to make this bigger. Good. Lourdes, please help me out by reading these sentences over here.
Okay, teacher. I like to swim, to dance, and to travel. She enjoys reading, playing soccer, and speaking French.
Thank you very much, Lourdes. So these 2 sentences, what are the category, all right, that you think they are in? Do you think it's for the first one, the second one, the third one, or the fourth one? What do you say, for example, with me? You have a list of items, separate to complete ideas with fanboys, introductory phrase, or an interrupter. Which one do you think is the best option for these 2?
That's not the first one.
Okay, so you believe that one of them or both of them are the first one with me. What do you say? It's list of items, right? List of items. Are both of them list of items?
Yes.
Okay, good. Correct. Thank you very much, Whitney. Yes. So remember, this is something I mentioned before, right? A list of items is not always objects, right? A list of items can be anything from objects to people, all right, to actions or activities. For example, here, these are activities, right? She enjoys, or I like to. This is infinitive and this is gerund. It doesn't matter. This is considered a list of items. And that's why we use commas and a comma before and before we have, sorry, because we have more than 2 items, right? To swim, to dance, and to travel, 3 items, so we use comma. Reading, playing soccer, and speaking French, 3 items, right? More than 2, so we use comma and comma. Now let's work with this long one over here, please. Sharai, let's read this one, please.
Okay. I'm deciding between going to the park with Laura, watching a movie at the cinema with Patty, or staying home and studying for my test.
Thank you very much, Sharai. So in this one, right, many people can be a little bit confused because we are using or. So what do you say, for example, in this case? It could be for you, Luciana. All right, Luciana. We have this last sentence. I'm deciding between going to the park with Laura, comma, watching a movie at the cinema with Patty, comma, or staying home and studying for my tests. Which one do you believe is the category, all right, that you believe, of course, once again, that it belongs to? Is it the first one? Is it a list of items? Is it the second one? Complete ideas, separated with fanboys, conjunctions, an introductory phrase, or an interrupter? Which one do you believe is the best one?
I think that is the second one. To separate long independent clauses when conjunctions connect them.
All right, so we have one, right? You believe it's the second one. You're telling me, in other words, with that answer, Luciana, that we are separating with commas because they are complete sentences. Independent clauses are complete sentences, all right? And we have this word. All right, let's analyze. That's for you, Lourdes. What do you say? This sentence, the same sentence, right? Which is the category for that sentence? The first one, second one, third one, or fourth one? What do you believe? Lourdes, are you there? I think you are with your microphone on, but I cannot hear anything. All right. In the meantime, let me go back to you, Whitney. Lourdes, I cannot hear anything. All right. So, Whitney, what do you say? Do you agree with Luciana? Do you believe that is the second category for this sentence, or is it a different one? What do you think?
I think that is a list.
A list. All right. So you believe that it is number one, a list of items or short phrases. Okay. And Sharai, what do you think? Do you agree with Luciana? Is it number two? Or do you agree with Whitney? Is it number one? What do you say, Sharai?
It's the number one, teacher. List
Number
of
one.
items.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Let's analyze. If it's number one, we need items or phrases, all right? Phrases. And you have to remember what a phrase is. If it's number two, you need long, all right, independent clauses. It means complete ideas, all right? Complete ideas. But if we analyze, we only have one big idea. Why? Because we only have one subject with one verb. Because actually going is going to be, of course, one verb, but it's not like a verb by itself, right? It's part of what? Of the continuous form, right? I'm deciding between, and actually more than that, it's not even a verb, it's a gerund, because it's after a preposition, between. So going, watching, and staying are not verbs. They are considered as activities, all right? Activities, because they are after a preposition. So it's actually only one main verb, which is in continuous form. I am deciding. Then this is only part of that because you don't have other subjects, right? Going to the park with Laura, first activity or first item, first phrase. Why? Why is it a phrase? Because you don't have subject, all right? A phrase is only going to be like this. Watching a movie at the cinema with Patty, that's not a complete sentence, actually. That's also a phrase because that's part of this. Comma, or you can use or and for a list of items. And how do you know that? Because actually, as you can see, these are not complete sentences, right? So you only have or staying home and studying for my test. So yes, these three sentences are the same, all right? And that's why the three of them have comma, not because they are complete ideas with conjunctions, but because they are list of items or phrases. More than two, and that's why we need it. And finally, I wrote some over here that don't use comma. So I'm going to go back to you, please. Luciana, let's read these two sentences over here, please, Luciana.
Okay. He likes to play the piano and to study French. She doesn't know if the best idea is to go to the park with her friends or stay home with her family.
Thank you very much. And finally, I have this one. I'm going to read this for you. He doesn't enjoy eating out nor trying new things. So why we are not, all right, why are we not using commas over here? Look, this is a very long sentence. And we would say, but I think we have many things here, we need a comma. But actually we don't, right? Why do we have commas here? Very short and very short sentences, and not here. There's one reason, right? Who can tell me? I don't know, Lourdes, if you can answer now. A little ago, I was not able to hear.
Yes, teacher. Sorry, I had a problem with my audio.
Okay, don't worry. So let's try to answer that question, Lourdes. Once again, why do you think that these sentences over here don't need a comma, and these ones, yes? What's the reason behind it?
Because in the first case, we have three options to mention, and in the second case, we have only two. Like, for example, he likes to play the piano and to study French. It's just two things that he likes to do. And in the second one too, it's just two things that she has to choose to do.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Lourdes. Yes, all right. To extend more this, that's the right answer. Very good. On the first three sentences, we have three, right? More than two items. That's why we use commas. But here we only have two. And also adding to that idea, we have two, but we don't have more subjects, right? That's why the only option is not using commas. It would be incorrect to use a comma over here, right? So he likes to play the piano and to study French. Why? Because this study and this play belongs to he, right? To him in this case, but I'm saying he for showing you this subject. She is the only subject in this idea, right? She doesn't know if the best idea is to go to the park with her friends, that's one, or stay home with her family, two. When you have only two options, you are not going to use comma, right? And why also? Because it's the only subject. You're not using more subjects, so no comma needed over there. And finally, the same, right? He doesn't enjoy eating out nor trying new things. Remember that you're going to use a very different structure with nor, as for example, we have here in Melissa's example, this one, right? I told her that if she wants to use nor in the second case, which is complete ideas, she needs another verb. It doesn't matter if it's the same verb, but the same subject, but you have to write it again, right? I do not like to be late, comma, nor do I like canceling an appointment or event. We use a comma here because even though I and I, of course, are the same subject, it doesn't matter. If you're repeating the subject, you're going to use a comma because this is another complete idea. Okay, that's more or less the idea. Take that into account. I wanted to highlight that difference between when you use commas and when you not, all right? So it's very, very important to remember that. The second thing, I'm going to try to ask you if you can tell me some introductory phrases. Remember, when you talk about a phrase, you are not talking about complete ideas. So be careful, all right, not to write a complete idea over here. So let me ask you first, Whitney, Can you tell me one introductory phrase, an introductory phrase that comes to your mind?
Example?
Yes, an example, only the introductory phrase.
For example, first of all, however, furthermore.
Okay, good. That's interesting. That's interesting what you're doing. Those are going to be transitional words that we're going to be learning also next week. But yes, they are considered like phrases, and they are introductory phrases, right? Because they are giving the idea to understand what is going to be next. Good, good, very good. So yes, transitional words, right? Transitional phrases, of course, can be introductory phrases. What else, Sharai? Can you tell me other introductory phrases that come to your mind, please? Anything?
Maybe once talking about time could be the day after tomorrow.
Okay, good, good. Yes, that's one option. Mentioning time, as we said last class, right? And it's great that you have that in mind. Great, thank you, Sharai. Going back to you, Lourdes, what other introductory phrases do you have in mind that you can use with a comma?
I have a question about that. I don't know if we can use not phrases like that, but maybe specific words like actually, comma, I don't like ice cream, or something like nowadays, comma, and the sentence. I don't know if it's like a introductory phrase, even if that isn't a phrase like that.
Yes, yes, Lourdes, yeah, it is possible, because actually it is a phrase, right? If you say actually, if you say nowadays, you're giving context, right? And actually the introductory phrase, the particular function, all right, or the thing that this phrase is going to do is to give a little bit of context, right? So it's possible, and that's considered an introductory phrase, Lourdes.
Okay,
Okay,
teacher.
good.
Thank you.
Very good. No, you're welcome. So we have actually, right, nowadays, with Whitney, we have however, furthermore, right, like these transitional words that we use, and we're going to learn more about them to connect paragraphs or longer ideas, right? And finally, as Sharai said, we have time references as, for example, the day before yesterday, yesterday, comma, even tomorrow, comma, right? Or days, on Monday, comma, right? So commas. And Luciana, what do you say? Do you have in mind any other introductory phrase that you can use for this, for the third part, for the third category?
I think that no, teacher. I was thinking what all my girls say.
Okay, okay, that's good, Luciana. So yes, because actually they mentioned a lot of examples, right? And that's good. Thank you very much. I'm going to show you now some that you can use, all right? Very common phrase, no, more than phrase. We have introductory phrases are the ones with before and after, all right? When you write those words, you can write a phrase, because actually if you say before starting the test, comma, that is an introductory phrase. And you're giving me the context that the following idea, that the following complete idea is going to take place before starting the test. And this is a phrase, okay? Why is this a phrase? Again, when you don't have subject, verb, and possibly a complement, it's going to be considered a phrase, okay? So this is a phrase. After, right, after finishing, very similar to the previous one, right? After finishing the series, right? Something like that, comma, and you have also a different idea. So you can use after, before, you say what, and comma, and that's introductory phrase. As also you were saying, it can be however, right? However, nonetheless, right? You have nonetheless, sorry. You have a actually, and so on and so forth, right? Those also can be considered as introductory phrases, or I was forgetting, time references, right? Sorry, capital letter, on Monday, right? Last Friday, and so on and so forth. So be careful, because most of, well, the students that write these kind of sentences, they don't use a comma after this idea, but it's important to write. On Monday, I went, right, the park, let's say, a very simple one. If you write it like this, it's not going to be that, it's not incorrect actually. And in some articles, even international articles on CNN, BBC, you're going to see this. But because on press, sometimes they don't follow these kind of rules, because these are academic rules for writing. And this is mostly used at universities, all right? So if you want to give like a very good international test, it's better if you use a comma, okay? It's way better if you do it. But that's it. I think with that, again, we always use the half an hour, right, to review. We are finishing with comma, all right? Remember that very well. If you have questions, let me know. But these are the cases in which we're going to be using commas. List of items or short phrases. Remember that they can be very long phrases. It says short here, but they can be long actually. But if they are too long, we have a second option. That's what we're going to learn today. To separate two complete ideas with fanboys, right? Fanboys are, I'm going to ask you this. Whitney, can you tell me 3 fanboys?
For and yet.
Okay, for and yet. Good, thank you. Sharai, can you tell me other 3 that you can remember?
But, nor, and.
Okay, good. And with that, I have enough. Thank you very much. Good. So fanboys, right? F for good. A for and. N for nor, right? Fan. Then you have boys. B for what? O for or, right? Y for yet, right? And we have the S for so. So we have 7 in total, the fanboys. Remember that you have that for you in Google Classroom, right? You have a special material that is called, right? Extra material fanboys. And there you can find all the fanboys with examples. And remember, you have to use comma with fanboys when they are complete sentences, all right? When you only have 2 complete sentences. And that's it. We're finishing then. Again, if you have any questions related to comma, let me know. If not, we're going to go actually to the second punctuation mark, that is going to be semicolon. And here you're also going to be answering some of the questions that you had of why you don't use semicolon with list of items, at least not anytime. There are other uses for semicolon or semicolon, all right? Most people call it semicolon, but it's also possible to call it semi. Let's read the first category, please. Luciana, let's begin with you. The first category and the example, please.
Okay. To join 2 or more ideas, parts in a sentence when their ideas are given equal position or rank. For example, the universe has always called to human beings. There could be no more final frontier than space.
Thank you very much, Luciana. Correct. So this is very important, and it's really important that you understand. For example, and the question is going to be for anybody. It doesn't matter if it's incorrect, all right? But if I set a comma there instead of a semicolon, would this sentence be correct like this, with a comma instead of a semicolon? What do you say?
Well, I think that it's incorrect because both ideas has the same I don't know, meaning.
Okay, it could be the meaning. Thank you, Sharai. I'm going to keep answering or asking, sorry, and then I'm going to answer this. Whitney, what do you say? Is this correct? If not, try to tell me why, as Sharai did, please. Or if you believe that it's correct, also try to tell me why.
I think that could we use a semicolon because there are two different ideas.
Okay, ideas, right? Two different ideas. Okay, so you believe that if we use a comma, it's incorrect. So it's better to use a semicolon because we have two different ideas. Good, we're going to see that. Thank you, Whitney. And to finish this up with you, Lourdes, what do you say? Is it okay if I use a comma here instead of a semicolon? Sometimes we can use two punctuation marks, but let's see if a comma works here. What do you say?
I think that maybe it could work with a normal comma.
Okay.
Because I think that the topic are related between them. So maybe it could be work just with a comma.
Okay, so let's analyze. Thank you very much, Lourdes. Actually, you're right, and I'm going to talk about like the very strict grammar, all right, very strict grammar that you use in many tests, and not only in tests, all right? This is written. You have Harvard rules for grammar, you have Michigan rules for grammar, you have Cambridge rules for grammar, all right? And there are, of course, situations in which a comma is optional, but one thing that is a little bit different from Spanish is that even though the two complete sentences are related, if they are two complete sentences, it's not the best option to use a comma, all right? More than 80%, I would say more than 90% will be incorrect. Some exceptions could be if it's clear that it's clarification, but clarifications are actually not always complete ideas. We usually use clarification phrases and not complete ideas. That's why we're going to discard the option of using a comma, because in this case, we have subject, all right? And even though they are related, we have two complete ideas. The universe subject has always called the verb to human beings. One idea. Then you have there, that's the subject, could be, that's the verb, right? The action, no more final frontier than space. They are related, but actually you have two options here, all right? Two options. You can use a period, but it's going to be sometimes too strict, but it's possible to use a period here. Or you can use the one that we are learning now, the best option, a semicolon or semicolon, when you have, as you said very well, sorry, that's not a semicolon. That one, when you have two ideas that, as Lourdes said, are kind of related. But in that case, we use semicolon and not comma. If we would like to use a comma, you would need to use a fanboy, all right? That's the rule. So, and the universe has always called, or sorry, the universe has always called to humans, or to human beings, right? Humans or human beings. If you believe that this is consequence or result, you can say, so there could be no more final frontier than space. That could be one option, right? So if you want to use a comma, you can do it, but you have to use one of the fanboys. If not, again, and you only have two complete sentences, you have two options. A period, but here is not the best option, and a semicolon, which in this case is the best one. All right, so let's remember that, please. Two are the best options. Take that into account. If we use a comma here, because of the context, in Spanish it seems to be okay, but in English that's going to be considered a run-off sentence, all right? It means that you're writing one sentence and actually you're connecting two ideas as if they were only one, but that's not the case, okay? So that's it. The second category, please, Sharei, to join two independent clauses.
Okay, to join two independent clauses connected by conjunctive adverbs or transitional phrases. Sam thought David was inviting him to the picnic to enjoy a nice day. As it turned out, David was planning a surprise birthday party.
Thank you very much, Sharai. In other words, look, of course, here we're being very specific, but I'm going to give you like even more options, and I'm going to translate these words, right, of clauses, connected, conjunctive adverbs, transitional phrases, right? I don't need you to know that, okay? If you remember here in the last page, let me see, okay, good. Here in comma, right? Instead of long independent clauses, memorize that. Just have in mind that two complete sentences, all right? Two complete sentences. So one complete sentence, comma, a fanboy, the other complete sentence. So you use comma. Good. Here it's very similar, all right? Actually, all right, skip the colon. We're going to go back to colon after this. But semicolon, first, you also need two complete ideas, all right? That's the first requirement, two complete ideas. Here are the complete ideas. Sam thought David was inviting him to the picnic to enjoy a nice day out. First complete idea. David was planning a surprise birthday party. The second complete idea, all right? So two complete ideas. Second thing that you need to use semicolon. After the semicolon, you're going to use one of these phrases. As we call them before, introductory phrases. Of course, in this case, they are also introducing the second sentence, but actually you can say any of the words that Whitney, mostly that Whitney was mentioning, and also I think Lourdes, because sometimes the time expressions are not going to be good here, right? On Monday, no. You're going to use more like connectors, all right? Like transitional words, transitional phrases, as it turned out, therefore, however, as a result, right? Nonetheless, etc., etc. We're going to learn about those words in the second part, but it's important that you have this here, as it turned out, one phrase to connect the first idea with the second idea with a semicolon. That's the difference. Look, with a comma, we connected two complete ideas with one fanboy, all right? Only a fanboy. And with fanboys, you only need a comma. But if you are using semicolon, you need to use semicolon, one of these phrases, comma, and the second complete idea. That is the condition to use semicolon with these two complete sentences, all right? Again, we're going to go back if it's needed. Tell me if you have any questions. I don't need you to know these very, very well, but at least to recognize when to use a comma and when to use a semicolon. Let's go to the third one, please, and that's going to be for you, Lourdes. Let's read it, please, to present.
Okay, to present items in a list or series if there are commas within the items, or if the items are relatively long and complex. Our family members came all the way from Denver, Colorado, Rochester, Minnesota, and even Paris, France.
Thank you very much, Lourdes. So if you see semicolon and comma, they could work in very similar situations. That's why it's important that you don't confuse their usage, all right? So yes, we use this, right, commas, for list of items. Even the examples that I showed you at the beginning of the class, right? But look at the difference. What is the difference from, all right, this list of items and this, all right, between that one and this one? It says family members, right, came all the way from Denver, comma, Colorado, semicolon, Rochester, comma, Minnesota, because if you see, these two items are related, so they are only divided with a comma. Now, Rochester, Minnesota, it's a different item. So you said semicolon, Rochester, Minnesota, semicolon, and finally the two last words that are related, Paris, comma, France. All right, so in that case, you don't only use commas, but also semicolons, because you have categories, right? The first category is city-state, semicolon, the second city-state, semicolon, the third city-state. Okay, so it's very, very similar to commas, but of course here you know that you cannot only use commas because it's going to be confusing to say Denver, comma, Colorado, comma, Rochester. No, because Colorado and Rochester are not the same thing. All right, they cannot be confused as part of the same category. That's very important to take into account. And finally, the last one, and that's going to be for you, please, Whitney. Help me out with to connect independent clauses.
The example, right?
So the explanation and the example, please.
Okay, to connect independent clauses joined by a coordinating conjunction, if the clauses are already punctuated with commas, or if they are lengthy. My main research objective is to isolate the cause of the disease, as well as to contribute to the extension literature. For this will bring an end to starvations across the continent, create new study designs related to epidemiology, and change the very paradigm of my research field.
Thank you very much, Whitney. So, right, let's be careful with these words, right? We have as isolate, good. Disease, right? Disease, that's going to be very important. Existing literature, good. I think that's it. Now, this is also very interesting. You are using semicolon in the exact same way that you're using commas with fanboys, because the fourth case is with fanboys. But why are you using semicolon with fanboys now and not with commas? Because the ideas that you have are already using commas before. And it's going to be confusing, again, this is for grammar, to use comma before these four, all right? I'm going to show you in which part exactly. Over here, right? The first rule says that with fanboys, we have to use commas, all right? That's the first rule. But there is one more rule that says if before, right, this fanboy and the comma that you have to use, you have already other commas that are part of that first sentence. For example, this first comma is part of the first complete idea. They are not two complete ideas. This is only one complete idea with something extra. And this is the second complete idea that has a list of phrases or items. That's why you have other two commas. So you have 3 commas in total. That's why it's not a good idea to use a comma with 4. Only in that case, okay, only in that case, we can use semicolon with fanboys, as here. Lengthy is that. Lengthy means a lot of words, very long, right? That's the meaning of lengthy, very long. So, for example, and I'm going to go back to show you this. If you change here, over here, and you write this, sorry, again, I'm learning my new keyword. It's going to be incorrect. Why? Because the first rule says that if it's only one complete sentence and 2 complete sentences, you don't have more commas, use a comma over there, all right? But in the case that you have more commas before these buts and you have more commas after these buts, in that case, you can use semicolon, all right? But in the way that this sentence or this idea is written, you don't have to use semicolon. You only have to use comma, all right? Please let me know if you have questions. It's important that you understand more or less the difference. Again, can be a little bit confusing for some of you. It's going to be important to clarify because remember that you have to use these rules for the essay that it's going to be for Monday, right? So on Monday, I'm going to check this. If you're using comma or if you use comma, but it's incorrect and you were supposed to use period or semicolon, but because they were 2 complete ideas, it's going to be incorrect, right? It's going to be incorrect. Or if you use a semicolon, but actually you didn't have to use a semicolon because the two sentences are short and they don't use other commas. So the best option was not a semicolon, it was only comma with found voice. So it's going to be incorrect. So please, it's very important. Again, this course, it's advanced, it's writing, reading. That's why we are going to take all these details into account. If you have any questions, please let me know. If not, let's go to the file. All right, I'm going to go there. You can ask me questions in the meantime, but the file, we're going to work only 2 sentences. All right, choose the ones, perhaps my advice is choose the ones that are more difficult for you. All right, so that I can correct that idea. Choose the ones that are more difficult for you, but only 2 ideas, 2 complete ideas. I would say if that complete idea has other 2 complete ideas in between, do it, but only 2, using 2 of the 4 or 5 categories that we have. All right, so I'm copying and pasting this over here. Okay, so you have it in the chat. And once again, over here, right, you have 4, right? You have 4 categories here, 4 situations in which you use semicolon. Only choose 2, all right, and write only 2 examples. You choose which ones you are going to work on, please. Let's do it.
Okay, teacher.
Perfect, thank you. Again, if you have any questions, let me know. Let's work, please. All right, well, extra advice, if you want to work the 4 case, please, you only can use other commas with your first complete idea. If you don't have to use, of course, 2 complete ideas before this 4, right? That's going to be something different, and it's not going to apply for this rule. If you want to use commas, you can use, for example, list of items, all right? Clarifications or interrupters, and clarifications can also be at the end of the sentence. Okay, so you have those 2 options in case you want to work with the 4 category. Okay, sorry once again for interrupting you. If you're going to work with the second category, all right, be sure that you use words, phrases to connect the first idea with the second idea. That's why I told you, right? It's not going to be a good idea to say semicolon on Monday, comma, this. Why? It's going to be something different. It can be okay sometimes, but it's not this case. In this case, you need to write a word that is going to say that the second one is a result of the first one, that the second one is a consequence of the first one, that the second one is an addition to the first one, right? That the second one is contrasting the idea to the first one, right? So there needs to be one of those expressions, for example, however, is going to show contrast and it's correct. As a result, is going to show result, of course, and it's correct. Okay, so you can use the words that, again, Whitney was saying, therefore, that's also one option. Furthermore, that's also one option. Any of those that show me, all right, that show me that you are using a kind of a connector, all right? You're connecting ideas, and the two of them are kind of related because of that adverb or that transitional word or transitional phrase. All right. Again, I always see what you do. And if I make extra comments like these ones are because I want to help you, right? If you want to work with the third category, you can think of list of items inside the list of items that you have. You can say, for example, remember that list of items can be actions, activities. You can say, I like to listen to rock, comma, right? Romantic, comma, and jazz music, semicolon, to play, I don't know, the piano, comma, the viola, comma, and the guitar, semicolon, and to this, and that. So what I did is to have mini list of verbs, all right, mini list of verbs or of items inside my big list of items. That's why I can use commas and semicolons to have to go to the next list of items. I use commas in between those semicolons, and then I have another list of items with commas, right? So try to think of that. Try to think the third category as something that is in between something else and inside, all right? So try to think of very short and mini list of items inside a big one. All right, I'm going to start checking some of your examples so that we have time to work with the other punctuation marks that we have. Luciana, let's begin with you, please. Let's read the two examples that you wrote with semicolon.
Okay, teacher. The first one is I bought a new pair of earrings for enjoy a formal dinner. However, the dinner was canceled at last minute. And the second one is I always wanted to study psychology. There couldn't be another career for me to choose.
Okay, great, great. There's only one detail, but not in terms of punctuation. Actually, you used the semicolon perfectly, Luciana. That was very, very good. All right. One little thing. Remember that after this word, you need gerunds. All right, you need gerunds. But if you say, for example, I bought a new pair of earrings, you can say instead for enjoying. If you say for, it will be for enjoying. But I think in this case, this is going to make the correction to infinitive, to. So you have two options, to enjoy, or if you say for enjoying, all right? And here, it's going to be with the article, all right? At the last minute. Good, that's the only thing. Besides that, you are using the punctuation rules perfectly. I don't know if you have any questions related to semicolon, Luciana. Let me know, please.
No, teacher, I think that it's clear.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Let's go with you now, please, with me. I think you also have your sentences or your examples ready.
Okay, teacher. The agenda meeting has a structure like introduction, main objectives, and conclusions. But the agenda meeting international had a structure different like greeting, explanation, and reorganization for a next meeting. The weather in Bolivia changes all the time. The gastronomy is amazing for the touristics.
Okay, okay, good. Let's analyze now. Again, in terms of the punctuation rules that we're using, I think it's perfect. You're using but with semicolon because you're using other commas. So it's going to be confusing to use a comma before but, right? So it's the best thing to do. So that's perfect. Only one thing over here, and it's going to be here. Like, I would think that this would change the order, and it would be better, sorry, if we say the agenda meeting international. And meeting international, I'm understanding that as a name, right? As a kind of a proper name or a fixed name. That's why I'm going to leave it there. The agenda meeting international, one fixed name, that's what I think, had a different structure. Perhaps for me, it would work a little better if you use that different order with me. Had a different structure, like greeting,
Yes.
explanation, right? Explanation and reorganization for a next meeting. That would be good. Also, if you say agenda meeting and agenda international or agenda meeting international, again, if we want to understand that as a fixed name, because if we only understand that as expression, adjectives, and so on, the order also will be a little bit incorrect. So one thing that I would advise here to have that clear is to make clear that that's the name, the fixed name of that, and we can use some quotation marks, all right, quotation marks over there to have clear that this is perhaps part of a fixed name, all right, a fixed name. So, but the agenda meeting international had a structure or had a different structure, right? Like creating explanation and reorganization for a meeting. But I think that's it. And also here, do you want to say here, what is your idea in the last part with me? Are you talking about the people or are you talking about the field of study? When you say the touristics?
People.
People, right? So we're only going to say the tourists, all right? The tourists instead of the touristics, all right? The tourists without the, so it's going to be like, all right? I think it's going to be like that. Sorry, making a mistake, like that, all right? If you say touristic is more like an adjective. It refers to the field of study, and you can say, for example, that's a touristic place, all right? It means that the characteristic of that place is that it's for tourists. That's why it's a touristic place. But if you're talking about only about people, it's going to be a tourist or tourists. All right, good. But I think that's it. Do you have any questions related to these comments? With me, let me know.
No, teacher, that's my mistake.
Good. No, that's great. Again, in general, the way you're using the semicolon, which is the most important thing, it's correct. Thank you, Whitney.
Okay.
Now I'm going to go up now, and I'm going to go with you, Sharai. Let's read your examples, please, Sharai.
Okay. The first one is they want to eat hamburgers. They have to choose any restaurant to eat delicious hamburgers. And the second one is I want to go to the cinema. Also, I want some popcorn.
Okay, good. Actually, this works very well, right? Double space here, but it's perfect. You have two ideas, two complete ideas that in a certain way are related. So semicolon is a very, very good option. I would say that is the best option. If we use a comma, we need a fanboy, right? So this is the best way over here. Good. And also here, because also it's going to be considered sometimes like this kind of adverb that is going to connect two ideas in a certain way. And in this case, you're adding information, right? Additionally, also, besides, I want some popcorn. I see no mistakes over there, Shadei. Very good. Do you have any questions related to semicolon? Let me know, please.
No, teacher, I don't have questions.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Lourdes, let's go with you. Let's read your examples, please.
Okay, she wants to travel around the world for the next year. She thinks that she could find love on that trip. He was ready to start a new career after 5 years. At the same time, he was nervous about what people would say of him.
Okay, good, perfect, great. To complete ideas, no fanboy, so the best idea is to use semicolon. Very good. In the next one, you're using one of these adverbs, right? Transitional phrases, words to connect. And the way you're connected is that this was happening at the same time that the first idea, right? Good, good. I see no observations over here, Lourdes. I don't know if you have any questions or comments related to semicolon.
No, teacher, everything is clear. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Melissa, let's go with you, please. Let's read your examples.
Okay, teacher. The first one is we all had important roles in the film. We were all invited to the award show in Los Angeles. And the second one is Omar is thinking about working as a waiter at the diner. The math teacher told him that he needs extra lessons because he failed the last 2 quizzes.
Okay, okay. In this case, we're using, I think, the first idea, right, that we have. Let me check. Again, they are correct. If I'm not wrong, we are using the first category for both, right? Because here we have, sorry, one complete idea, very good. A second complete idea. They are related in a certain way, so semicolon is the best option. Very good, right? We were all invited. Perhaps you can write that in the way you were reading it, and it was very good. I think there's no mistake also in doing it like that. And the second one, if we see this, Omar is thinking about working right as a waiter at the dinner, right? Dinner, semicolon, the math teacher told him, right, he needs da. Good. So this also seems to be the first one. All right, so you wrote 2 sentences with only one of the categories, right? It would be great to have a second category, but this is correct. And this one, perhaps, what do you think is the relation, all right, the connection between the first sentence and the second one? In which way do you believe that they are related, or they are kind of the same hierarchy, Melissa?
Sorry, I think that the relation could be that he needs more money for that extra lessons.
Good, exactly. That's what I was thinking. So if we want to, well, it's important to have everything clear, at least in grammar. So I would add the idea that is to pay, right? So we can say Omar, right? Or Omar is thinking about working as a waiter at the dinner to pay for his math or for his extra classes or private tutor, right? Something like that. And semicolon, the math teacher told him that she or he needs extra lessons, right? Because he failed, tan, tan, tan. So of course, it's understandable because I also was able to understand that, but in grammar, it's better if you show very clearly and specifically, all right, what's the connection between these two? And the idea of to pay a tutor, to pay private classes or something like that is going to help establish the connection between these two. Only that advice. I don't know if you have any questions or comments, Melissa. Let me know.
Yes, for example, the second sentence, if I would wanted to write it with the third rule or the third type of use. No, the fourth one, sorry.
The fourth one.
Yes, how could I do it, or how would a good way to do it? Because I was trying to write one with the fourth type of use, but I don't know if I needed other sentence that would make everything longer, or how could I do that with the last?
Yes. You have two better options, two, I think, options that are good for that one. All right, very shortly. One option, you can write your first complete sentence, your first complete idea, Melissa, with extra information or clarification. For example, you can say, Omar, comma, who is a very good student, comma, is thinking, right, about working as a waiter at the dinner, semicolon. But, you can say, but the math teacher, right, told him that he needs extra lessons because he failed the last 2 quizzes, comma, he was not attending all classes, comma, and he was doing this, and that. In that way, you can use the fourth one, because if you realize, Melissa, I used already commas here, but it was only one complete sentence. I'm using semicolon with but, and in my second complete sentence, I'm also using commas because I'm using a list of items. So that is one way, and I think I'm using the 2 ways actually there, Melissa. One of them is giving extra information with commas. In that way, your sentence is more complex, and you already use commas. And the second way is to give a list of items. When you give a list of items, it's still one sentence, one complete sentence, but of course you need commas because of the activities or the items that you're mentioning. And when you have 2 complete ideas with those extra commas, then the fourth option would be the best, because you have to use a semicolon to divide those 2, and you can use one fanboy to, again, establish the connection between the first one and the second one. I don't know if that helps a little bit to understand how you can work the fourth class or category, Melissa. Let me know.
Okay,
all right.
teacher.
Okay, good. If you have any other questions, let me know. Any other comments or questions, Melissa?
No, teacher, that was my only question.
Okay, good, perfect. Thank you very much. And let's finish this up with you, please, Mariana. Let's read what you have, or try to tell me if you have any questions. Let's analyze what you have, please.
Okay, teacher. The first is, we visit many restaurants the last month. We went to Tuesday, the cafe Fridays, and a new bistro that's called Marvino's. The second is, I saw an old friend, I miss her, and she invited me to her house the next Monday.
Okay, let's analyze, Mariana. Thank you very much for reading. On the first one, we have to analyze detail by detail, but I'm going to try to do it like this. We, right? That's one subject, visited, verb. Then you have complements, right? Sorry, I'm making that complement. Good. That is one complete idea. It means that this is a different complete idea, Mariana. It means that with this comma, it is incorrect. We cannot use commas to divide 2 complete ideas, right? So you can even write a semicolon here. This is one option. You can actually write a semicolon there. Semicolon, we went to, now you're going to give a list of items. Good. Remember, this is also a rule. This can be incorrect if you write like that in your essay. Tuesday, this is the name of the place, right? the cafe. It's going to be Fridays. If you see over here, you say a new bistros, right? That's called Marvinus. This is actually not a complete idea. This is only one extra item as Friday, because Fridays is exactly the same as all these words. Why? Because you're only giving details about that word. That is not a complete sentence. So we don't actually need a semicolon over there. It's only going to be a comma because they are inside the same kind of classes. Tuesday, the cafe, Fridays, and this can be considered also as extra information, right? A new bistro. I don't know if this is referred to as something that is proper, but if it's going to be like that, that's called, right? And actually, I think this is going to be the name, right? Marvinus. So in this case, the only place in which you need to use semicolon is here, because this is a complete sentence and this is a second complete sentence. And here you don't need it because you only have simple items in your category. And the last item, it's a little bit more complex, but actually you don't need commas in this third item, right? You're not using extra commas. So there is no need to use a semicolon. You only need a semicolon here before and. One, if you have a complete sentence after and, this is not a complete sentence. And second, if your list of items, all right, that is inside and, is using other commas. All right, other commas, but that's only applied if also the previous items were using extra commas. So if here you have extra commas, extra commas, extra commas, that's not the case. And you have and, yes, you need semicolon. But again, in this case, the only place would be this one because of the different sentences and different ideas. And this one, right? I saw an old friend. I missed her. Again, it's part of the same subject, but these are two complete ideas, yes. So in English, again, I told you, right? This is very different to Spanish. We use semicolon. You have two options, semicolon or period. Right? So you can say, I saw an old friend. If you want to use comma, I would advise to do that. I saw an old friend, comma, and. You can use commas if you use fanboys. And I missed her. Semicolon, good, because you're using commas. It's perfect to use semicolon here, comma, and she invited me to her house the next Monday. Okay, and remember all the days with capital letter. In that way, it would be perfect to use a semicolon before and, because you have a second complete idea, and because you already used a comma before. I don't know if you have any questions or comments related to these, comments that I did and observations, Mariana. Let me know.
No, teacher, thank you.
Okay, perfect. You're welcome. Good. I think we can go to the next part, please. Again, it can be a little bit confusing when we need to choose which punctuation mark to use, but it's very important that you have this clear, at least in 3 or 2 of the categories that we are learning. Now let's go to colon. Okay, colon is going to be shorter. Look, we only have 3, and these 3 are going to be very simple because it's very, very similar to Spanish. Perhaps number 2, it's going to be a little bit confusing, but you're going to recognize what is the difference between semicolon and number 1. In number 1, these are 2 independent ideas. This is not a summary of this one, no. This is not a paraphrase of this one, no. Only when it's paraphrase or a summary of the previous idea, you can use colon, all right? And let's learn how. Please, Lourdes, help me out with the first category of column, please.
Okay, to introduce an item or a series of items, humans use 5 major senses: sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch.
Thank you very much. So you don't need to use a comma when your list of items is part of the object of your sentence, right? You say, for example, here, I bought, you don't say I bought, colon, bread, cheese. No, you don't need, because actually they are together, right? Bread, cheese, and pickles are objects of this but. Here, you are saying humans use 5 major senses. These are the 5 major senses. But with this colon, this side is not object of 5 senses, right? It's only like a list of items that is like expanding. Yes, that's the word. That is expanding this knowledge, 5 major senses. So if you have a word and you want to expand that word into a list of items, series of items, you are going to use colon. And please, as you can see here, you're not going to use capital letter in this case. You only use capital letter when you have quotations, all right? She said, colon, quotation mark, don't do it. That's with capital letter. But here, we don't use capital letter for a list of items. If you do, it can be okay, but most of the times, even in academic essays in the university, they are going to consider that as incorrect if it's capital letter, right? It's a little bit weird, but it's like that. Number 2, please, Whitney, let's read number 2, the explanation and the example and clarification, please.
Okay. To separate independent clauses, when the second clause sentence illustrates, explains, paraphrases, and expands on the first. Martha realized that her worst fear was coming true. Her son was behind, sent toward.
Thank you very much. I'm going to read this one. The information after the colon explains, right, Martha's fear in the form of an independent clause. So please, you have to be careful with this one. Only when you are explaining, very related to this, right? Because you are explaining actually here what the 5 major senses are, but in the form of a list of items. But here, you're explaining something on what? The fear. What is that fear, right? Martha realized that her worst fear was coming true. But what is that fear? If you want to clarify that fear, colon, her son was being sent to war. That is her fear. So you are giving explanation, and there it's better to use colon. And finally, well, we're not going to use this, but it's important for you to know, and I'm sure that most of you know this. Please, Mariana, if you can read the last one, to follow.
To follow the salutation in a business letter or more formal letter. To the Central Bailey Committee Chairman, content of the letter.
Great, thank you very much, right? It's going to be like the committee, right? The committee. So, good. At the beginning of the letter, a business letter, a very formal letter, that instead of a comma, use colon, all right? Because sometimes you can say, right, your greetings and comma. But in this case, colon would be better for these kind of situations, business letter or very formal letter. And that's it. You have a 4-1 that we are not explaining here that you know. If you remember reported speech, you use colon with, you can use colon or commas with the words that you use from other person, right? He said, colon or comma, quotation mark, you were not invited, period, and we close quotation mark, right? So you have that 4-1. It's not mentioned here, but you know that one. Do you have any questions? Please let me know if you do. If not, it will be great that we can work now. Please, yes, let's do that, please. One example, only one of them, all right? Choose one, but just between these two, please, because the last one is only the salutation, right? And you're not going to write the whole letter. Choose one of them. The first one, introduce an item of series of items, or the second one, to give explanation or paraphrasing or explaining something from the first idea. All right, one of those two, and give me one example using that category, please. Let's do it. Remember that besides these two, you can also use the third one, or actually the fourth one, right? But I'm saying the third one here, quotation, all right, marks with reported speech. You can give me examples using that, all right? My mother said, colon, quotation mark, and in that case, you use capital letter, right? You have to write, clean your room before going to the party, period, quotation mark, and that's it. That is the other option, right, in which you can use colon. Most people in English use comma instead of colon. That's a little bit weird, but colon is also possible, right? Comma and colon. Very good. Let's start with you, please, Luciana. Let's read your sentence, please, your example.
Okay. So I was really excited about what happened yesterday. My mom came to visit me after 1 year.
Good, great. I think this is a very, very good example, Luciana. Great work. Just remember, again, this rule is a little bit weird. There's no actual explanation of why it's like this, why it's like that. But most of the cases when we work with list of items or extra explanation, we're only going to use lowercase letter instead of capital letter, like that, all right? Again, it's weird. Sometimes it's going to be considered a mistake, but in very formal English, in those two cases, they consider that as the best option. And capital letter, yes, we use when we are using quotation. But in this case, it's clarified.
Sorry, teacher. I'm not hearing you very well. I don't know if it's my Wi-Fi or my connection. Teacher?
All right, sorry. Again, I had some problems with this connection. I don't know what's happening. So I was telling you, Luciana, very briefly again, it's a little bit weird, this rule, but they say that when we use colon with a list of items or clarification, paraphrasing, right, giving this extra information, it's better to use only lowercase letter instead of capital letter. It's a little bit weird, but we're going to try to apply that rule over here. But the rest of the idea, the sentence is very, very well done, Luciana. I think it's a great example.
When we use a capital letter after
a colon, when we have a quotation marks like this, and you are using someone else's words, Luciana. You can say, for example, right? She or my mother said, all right, colon, quotation, sorry. I'm getting used to this. Go to your room. All right, period and quotation mark. In that case, we are going to use capital letter. All right. Any questions or comments? Let me know, please, Luciana.
No, teacher. Now it's more clear. Thank you.
Great, perfect. And again, this is a great example, Luciana. Thank you. It's hard to write an example with paraphrasing or explanation. That was good. Whitney, let's go with your example.
Okay, they didn't have a good experience when they did the project. Alex and Joe had to work while they participate in the project.
Okay, good, very good. You are right, clarifying why it was not a good experience. In that way, it's related, so it's possible to use colon. And in this case, of course, we have to use capital letter because we're talking about proper names, right? Good. Any questions related to colon, Whitney? Let me know, please.
No, teacher.
Good, thank you. I'm going to see how it goes. I think with you, please, Melissa. Let's read yours, Melissa.
Okay, he really knows everything about books. Classics, young adult, contemporary, historical fiction. He always has a good recommendation.
Great, great, very good. Very complex example. You are mixing up this with other periods, a list of items that is working very, very good over there, and the whole lowercase letter, right? Very good, Melissa. Any questions related to colon? Let me know, please.
No, I think it's clear, teacher.
Great, thank you. Lourdes, what about your example?
Okay. A few time ago, I read that there are 5 love languages: words of affirmation, quality time, acts of service, gifts, and touch.
Very good, great. Again, you are using a list of words and it works perfect. Only one little thing that we can see if it's going to work better. As time is considered an abstract idea, if we want to give the idea of short, it's better to use little instead of few, because few it's going to be used mainly with countable things. All right,
Okay.
you can say, for example, a few minutes ago, right? A few minutes ago, but it's better to say a little time ago, right? A few minutes ago, but a little time ago. Good. Besides that, I think it's perfect, Lourdes. Any questions or comments related to that? Let me know, please.
No, teacher, everything is clear.
Great, thank you. And Sharai, let's finish this column with you, please.
Okay. He's angry. His friends betrayed him.
Good, good. Very simple sentence, a short one, but it's using colon in a perfect way. I don't know if you have any questions, Sharai. I don't have any observations. All right, good. I think it's clear for all of you, right? It's not hard to use colon. Mariana, Mariana, yes. Mariana, your sentence. Let's read your sentence. Sorry, I was forgetting. Let's read yours, please.
Okay, teacher. I write two, but the first is our teacher gave us a new assignment which consists in do all the problems of the new book and read the paragraph of the reading book.
Okay, and let's read the other one in case we're going to see
okay.
which is better.
The second is today we need to buy paper, cleaner, toothbrushes, and a screen protector.
Okay, good. We have two options in this one. I think it works great. You actually here, you wouldn't need a colon, but if you use it, it's even better. All right, so it works very good over here. Now, instead of only do, it's better if you use, not only is better, it's correct if you use two forms, infinitive or gerund. All right, why? Because using the base form is not correct, only as the verb itself. And as you also have a preposition, you're giving the idea that after the preposition, you need gerunds. So it's better to use doing all the problems, right, of the new book and reading the paragraph of the reading book. It doesn't matter if you say read and can read. It's okay. But again, Mariana, this is because it's always good to write either infinitive, to do, or gerund, doing. And in this case, as you have a preposition at the end, the best option is gerund. And finally here, this is correct. It's very good. So the sentence is correct. Don't forget about the period. And this one, if you want this to be 100% correct, today it's introductory phrase. All right, that's introductory because this is not subject. If the first word is not a subject, then it's something extra. So you need a comma. Today, comma, we need to buy, good, paper, cleaner, toothbrushes, and screen protector, good. Again, this can be omitted because paper can be the object of buy, but it's possible to use it, all right, if you consider that that's going to help clarify the list of items. And here, yes, we have some collocations, right? We have some depending on or consisting on in this case, but we're going to use with of. But that's not the case. The way you're using the colon, I think, works very good. I don't know if you have any questions related to those corrections or comments, Mariana. Let me know, please.
No, teacher, thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And I think we're finishing with this. We know how to use the main punctuation marks. We have only one more, but please, this is going to be something extra. You can apply this if you want. Read it. But the thing is that dash, when you want to use dash, it's only to replace commas or to replace comma. All right? And let's read this to finish. We're not going to do examples with this, but let's read to know how to do it. And I'm going to ask you, please, Sharai, let's read the first use of dash M, please. We have two dashes. We have the dash N and the dash M. This is the dash M.
Okay, to replace commas when writing a parenthetical or interruptive phrase, the dashes have slightly more emphatic feel, making the reader focus on this information that is said in words. And so when baby was born in June, nearly 2 months premature, the baby quite by all of the baby's.
Thank you very much. Now, you can see what we do here. It's instead of commas, because you know that you can use commas here, right? You can say comma, nearly, comma, right? And the parent, and that's correct. But you're going to use dash M when you want to put more emphasis, all right? And you want to like highlight this information because you believe, if you believe that actually the extra information, the interrupter, is kind of important or interesting to mention, then don't use commas and use dash, all right? Dash M. One option. Again, you know how to use parenthetical or interrupters, right? Commas. So it's the same, only to put more emphasis. And finally, this, that is going to be please for you. Melissa, let's read this one, please. To replace colon.
Okay, to replace colon to emphasize the conclusion of your sentence without giving it all of the connotations that a colon brings. A dash can add extra information and is more flexible in this way. It is also less formal than a colon. Colon. Let's go where we went last year. Disneyland. Single dash. Let's go where we went last year. Disneyland.
Thank you very much. So the same idea, right? The same idea over here. Colon is more formal. But if you want to be less formal and you don't want all those connotations that a colon has, remember this is for paraphrasing, extra information, right? If you don't want that and you only want to give like something extra, use dash, all right? So it means that in your sentences over here, the ones who wrote that type, for example, this, Luciana's example, it's possible to use dash. All right, M dash. My mom came to visit me after 1 year. But a dash is going to be mainly used for very short additions, all right? They can be long, but remember that they are going to be less formal than a colon. And we finish with this. Again, we have until 7:40, but I think we're finishing here. Do you have any questions? I want to spend these last 4 minutes in solving your questions or clarifying what you need to do for your essay on Monday. Let me know, please. The presentation is over with that. Any questions, any comments? It's important to make them now, please.
No, teacher.
Okay, good. So while I'm sharing the poll, remember for Monday, you need to present the 9 words, right? 9 words of the vocabulary with the definitions, and you need to upload it to the designated place, right? Second, you need to upload your essay, 200 words, no structure. The only thing that I'm taking into account, be careful with your writing mistakes because that's going to take, right? That's going to be taken into account. Be careful with the punctuation because that's going to be actually the main thing. Of course, you're going to be using punctuation in those 200 words. Be sure that you use comma correctly, that you use semicolon correctly, colon correctly, and if you're going to use dash, be sure that you're also replacing comma in a good way and you're replacing colon in a good way. And of course, period, only one important function, and you know that's why we didn't see it. The end of a complete sentence or the end of a paragraph, period, right? That's it. With that explained, I'm going to be waiting for your essays. You can upload them before Monday if you want, okay? But you have until Monday to do it. I'm sharing the poll. Let's complete, please, that poll. And that's going to be everything for today. If you have questions in the meantime or during the weekend, let me know. Have a great night, and I'll see you on Monday. Bye-bye, girls.
Bye, teacher.
Bye, teacher. Thank you.
Teacher.
Bye-bye. See you.
Teacher,
Yeah, yes. Tell me, Whitney.
I have a question about the 3 words per class.
Yes, it means that in total, Whitney, you have to present a total of 9 words because we need to take into account that each unit has 3 days. So the first day was Wednesday, the second day is today, Friday, and the third day is Monday, right? So 3 words per day means 3 words for Wednesday, 3 words for today, Friday, and 3 words for Monday. It means that in total, the document that you're going to upload to Google Classroom needs to have at least 9 words. All right, so every week I'm going to be waiting for 9 words. But if you upload more than 9 words with a definition, that's great. But that's what you need at least. 9 words per week every Monday. All right?
So we have to write 9 words with their meaning, right?
Exactly. That's correct. 9 words and the meaning of that word that you are learning. Remember, they have to be new words for you. If you write, for example, eat, of course, that's not going to be right. Good. You need to write new words and the meaning of the word. That's it.
Okay, I understand. Thank you,
Good.
teacher.
Perfect. You're
Bye-bye.
welcome. Bye-bye. Good night.